The mining ship New Sol moved slowly through the dark space near the Veil Nebula. Its engines hummed quietly as it carried precious metals back to Earth. Captain Hyun-woo sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars through the main window. He had been doing this job for 15 years, but the beauty of space still made him smile. "Captain, we have something strange on the sensors," said Nari from her station. She was the ship's medic, but she also helped watch the scanning equipment. Her dark eyes looked worried as she studied the screen. Hyun-woo walked over to look. The display showed a large object floating in space about 10 kilometers away. It was much bigger than their ship, maybe 20 times larger. The object was dark and cold with no power readings at all. "What do you think it is?" asked Taemin, the ship's engineer. He was young, only 25, but very good at fixing things. His hands were always dirty from working on the engines. "Looks like a ship," Hyun-woo said, "but not human. The shape is all wrong." The object on the screen was long and curved, like a giant crystal or maybe a seashell. Human ships were square and practical. This looked like art. "Should we report it to Earth Command?" Nari asked. That was the normal thing to do when they found something new in space. Hyun-woo thought for a moment. Earth Command would send a science ship, but that would take months. By then, whatever was in there might be gone. He had always been curious, and something about this ship called to him. "Let's take a closer look first," he decided. "Maybe we can help if someone is in trouble." Taemin looked nervous. "Captain, the rules say we should stay away from unknown ships. What if it's dangerous?" "What if someone needs help?" Hyun-woo replied. "We would want other people to help us, right?" He turned the New Sol toward the strange ship. As they got closer, they could see it better. The hull was made of something that looked like clear crystal, but it was dark inside. There were no lights anywhere. It looked dead. "I'm getting very weak life signs," Nari said, her voice excited. "There are living things in there, but barely." "How many?" Hyun-woo asked. "Maybe 10 or 12. The readings are strange. These aren't human life signs." Hyun-woo felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens. Every human dreamed of this moment. But these aliens were dying. "Can we dock with them?" he asked Taemin. The young engineer studied his screens. "Their docking port is different from ours, but I think I can make something work. Give me 30 minutes. While Taemin worked on the docking problem, Hyun-woo and Nari prepared for what they might find. They put on spacesuits and gathered medical supplies. Nari also brought food and water just in case. "Captain," she said quietly, "what if they're dangerous? What if this is a trap?" Hyun-woo looked at her kind face. Nari always worried about others, even strangers. It was what made her a good medic. "Then we'll deal with it," he said. "But I don't think creatures who are dying would set traps. They need help," Taemin called from the engine room. "Ready, Captain. The connection isn't perfect, but it will hold." The New Sol moved carefully until it touched the alien ship. There was a soft bump as the two ships connected. Taemin had built a tunnel between the airlocks using spare parts and metal sheets. It looked rough, but it would work. Hyun-woo and Nari walked through the tunnel into the alien ship. The air was very cold and smelled like flowers and metal. Their flashlights showed walls made of the same crystal material as the outside. Everything was curved and smooth, like the inside of a giant shell. "This way," Nari said, following her. "Medical scanner. The life signs are stronger down this hall." They walked through several rooms filled with strange equipment. Everything was beautiful, but broken. Lights flickered weakly or not at all. The air felt thin and hard to breathe. Finally, they found them. 12 creatures lay in what looked like sleeping pods made of crystal. The beings were unlike anything Hyun-woo had ever seen. They were tall and thin, maybe 7 feet long, with skin that looked like living glass. Their faces were gentle, with large eyes that glowed softly even as they slept. They had 4 arms, each ending in delicate hands with long fingers. "They're beautiful," Nari whispered. One of the creatures opened its eyes and looked at them. Its voice was like music, but very weak. "You are not of our kind," it said in perfect English, though its mouth barely moved. "How do you speak our language?" "We speak the same language you're using now," Hyunwoo said gently. "English. How do you know it?" "We learned from your broadcasts. Years of listening." "You are humans?" "Yes. I'm Hyunwoo, and this is Nari." "What happened to you?" The creature's eyes became sad. "I am Veltara. We are Kalani. Our son died. Our world gone. We are the last." Nari checked her scanner and gasped. "Captain, their life support is almost gone. They have maybe 6 hours of air left." Hyunwoo didn't hesitate. "Can we move them to our ship?" "I don't know if our air is safe for them," Nari said. "Better than no air at all," Hyunwoo replied. He looked at Veltara. "We want to help you. Will you trust us?" Veltara's large eyes filled with something like tears, but they sparkled like diamonds. "You would help us? We are strangers. We have nothing to give you." "You don't need to give us anything," Hyunwoo said. "People help people. That's what we do." It took 4 hours to move all 12 Kalani to the new Sol. Taemin worked without stopping to modify their life support systems. The ship would be crowded and their supplies would run low, but everyone would live. As the last Kalani was brought aboard, Veltara took Hyunwoo's hand in her 4 delicate ones. "In all our years of listening to your broadcasts," she said, "we learned that humans fight and argue. We expected selfishness, but you risk everything for strangers." "Not everything," Hyunwoo smiled. "Just our comfort. Lives are more important than comfort." Veltara looked at him with wonder. "Your species is remarkable. This kindness, it will not be forgotten." As the new Sol began its journey back to human space, Hyunwoo watched the alien ship grow smaller behind them. He didn't know that. This simple act of kindness would change the galaxy forever. He only knew that 12 beings were alive who would have died, and that felt right. In the medical bay, Nari watched over their new passengers as they slept peacefully for the first time in months. The Kalani were safe now, but something else was happening. Something none of the humans could see. Veltara had not told them everything. The Kalani had a gift, a way of touching the quantum fabric of space itself. And as gratitude filled her crystalline heart, that gift began to work in ways that would echo across the universe. 6 months had passed since the new Sol returned to Earth with its special passengers. The 12 Kalani survivors had been given homes in different human colonies across the galaxy. They were quiet guests, always polite and grateful, but they seemed sad. Everyone understood why. They were the last of their kind. Dr. So-young worked at the Central Hospital on Mars Colony. She had been taking care of 3 Kalani patients who were still recovering from their long time in space. Every morning she checked on them in the special rooms built just for their crystal-like bodies. "Good morning, Kayla," she said to the youngest Kalani. "How are you feeling today?" Kayla's large eyes glowed softly. "Better, Dr. So-young. Thank you for caring for us." "It's my job," So-young smiled. "But also my pleasure. You're very interesting patients." What Dr. So-young didn't know was that Kayla had been watching her work for months. The Kalani had learned something amazing about humans. They didn't just help because they had to. They helped because they wanted to. This was very rare in the galaxy. While Dr. So-young worked with other patients, Kayla quietly touched the medical scanner beside her bed. Her crystalline fingers glowed for just a moment. The machine would work better now, able to see diseases earlier and help more people, but Dr. So Young would never know why. On Earth, farmer J-Ho was having trouble with his crops. The weather had been bad, and many plants were dying. He worked from sunrise to sunset, trying to save his farm. His family needed the money from selling food. 3 Kalani lived in the small town near his farm. They often walked past his fields and saw him working so hard. One day, the oldest Kalani, named Tells, stopped to talk to him. "Your plants look sick," Tells said in his musical voice. J-Ho wiped sweat from his face. "Yes, I don't know what to do. If the crops die, my family will have no money for food. You work very hard," Tells observed. "On our world, we had farmers too. They were the most important people." That night, Tells and the other 2 Kalani walked through J-Ho's fields. Their hands glowed as they touched the soil and the sick plants. They couldn't bring back their own world, but they could help this kind farmer who reminded them of home. The next morning, J-Ho found his crops looking much better. He thought maybe the rain had helped, or perhaps his hard work was finally paying off. He never knew that alien hands had blessed his fields with healing energy. Far away on Europa Station, technician Yun-ji was trying to fix a broken communication array. The station needed to talk to ships traveling between the outer planets. But the equipment kept failing. She had been working on it for 3 days without sleep. "This should work," she said to herself, connecting another wire. "People are counting on this." 2 Kalani lived on Europa Station. They watched Yun-ji work without stopping, never complaining, always thinking about the people who needed the communication system to work. They remembered their own technicians, who had worked just as hard to try to save their dying world. When Yun-ji finally fell asleep at her desk, exhausted, the Kalani crept into the communication room. Their crystal bodies pulsed with soft light as they touched the broken machines. The equipment would work perfectly now, better than it ever had before, but the Kalani were doing more than just fixing things. Each time they helped, they left something behind. It was invisible to human eyes and machines, but very real. They called it a gratitude echo. The gratitude echo was made of quantum energy, the same force that held atoms together and made stars shine. Every time a human showed kindness, the echo grew stronger. Every time someone helped without asking for payment, the echo spread further into space. Veltara, the eldest Kalani, lived in New Geneva on Earth. She spent her days in the public library, reading human books and watching human children play. She was amazed by what she saw. Human children shared their toys without being told. When one child fell down, others would help him up. When someone was sad, friends would try to make them happy. This kindness wasn't taught in schools. It came from inside like breathing. Veltara began to understand something that no other species in the galaxy had learned. Humans didn't help others because it was smart or because they wanted something back. They helped because not helping felt wrong to them. It hurt them to see others suffer. As she watched, Veltara's crystal body began to glow. She was creating the strongest gratitude echo of all. It carried the story of Captain Hyun-woo saving her people. It carried the feeling of being rescued by strangers who asked for nothing in return. And it carried a message that would travel across the galaxy. The message was simple but powerful. It said that kindness was real. It said that some people in the universe would help you, even if they didn't know you, even if you couldn't help them back. It said that hope was not foolish. All across human space, the gratitude echoes were growing. They rode on radio waves and spaceship engines. They hid in computer signals and traveling merchants' cargo. Slowly, quietly, they began to leave human territory and spread to other parts of the galaxy. The first aliens to detect the echoes were confused. Their scientists couldn't understand what the strange quantum signals meant. The energy patterns didn't match anything they knew, but somehow the signals made them feel different, warmer, more hopeful. On the warship Bloody Claw, Commander Thax of the Rigel Empire picked up the echoes during a deep space patrol. His people were warriors who took what they wanted and trusted no one. But when the quantum patterns touched his mind, he remembered being young and helping his injured brother. He had forgotten that memory for 50 years. In the research stations of the collective, the hive-minded scientists detected the echoes in their shared consciousness. For just a moment, each individual felt what it was like to be separate, to choose to help someone else without being told to do it. The feeling was strange and wonderful. The proud nobles of the Eternal Kingdom picked up the echoes through their palace communication systems. They had always believed that helping others was weakness, that only the strong deserved to survive. But the quantum patterns whispered of a different kind of strength, the strength to lift others up instead of pushing them down. None of these aliens understood what was happening to them. They didn't know that 12 grateful crystal beings were quietly changing the galaxy. They only knew that something was different. Something was making them think new thoughts and feel new feelings. And far away, in every human colony and space station, ordinary people continued doing what they had always done. They helped their neighbors. They shared their food. They took care of the sick and protected the weak. They had no idea that their simple kindness was becoming a force that would reshape the stars themselves. The cargo ship Lucky Star was carrying medicine to the outer colonies when the pirates found it. Captain Sung Ho had been flying this route for 8 years, and he knew the dangers, but medicine couldn't wait. People were sick and dying on Kepler Station. The pirate ship Shadow Blade belonged to the Threnody, a warrior race that had been raiding human ships for decades. Their commander, Crixtal, was famous for his cruelty. His red eyes glowed with anger as he watched the human cargo ship try to run. "Stop your ship, or we will destroy it!" Crixtal's voice boomed over the radio. Sung Ho looked at his small crew. There were only 4 of them, and they had no weapons. The medicine they carried could save hundreds of lives, but it would also make the pirates very rich if they sold it. "Captain, what do we do?" asked his young co-pilot Min-ho. "We stop," Sung Ho said sadly. "We can't fight them and people need this medicine to live." The Shadow Blade grabbed the Lucky Star with a tractor beam and pulled it close. Threnody warriors in heavy armor jumped onto the human ship. They were tall and strong, with thick gray skin and sharp teeth. They carried big guns and looked ready to kill. Crystal pushed Sung Ho against the wall. "Where is your cargo, human?" "In the back," Sung Ho said. "But please, that medicine is for sick people. Children are dying without it." Crixtal laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. "Children die every day. That is how the universe works. The strong take what they want." But as the Threnody warriors searched the ship, something strange happened. The gratitude echoes that had been growing stronger for months began to affect them. The quantum patterns touched their minds, showing them memories they had buried long ago. One warrior named Vorth suddenly remembered his sister, who had died when they were children, because no one would share medicine with their family. Another, warrior Krex, thought about his son, who was sick right now on their homeworld. As they loaded the medicine onto their ship, the echoes grew stronger. They could feel the worry and fear of Captain Sung Ho, but also his deep care for people he had never met. The quantum energy showed them something they had never understood before. Some beings helped others not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to care. Crixtal felt it too. For the first time in his life of violence, he felt what it was like to want to help instead of hurt. The feeling was so strange that it made him angry. "Take everything," he ordered his warriors. But his voice was quieter than usual. As the pirates were leaving. One of Sung Ho's crew members, engineer Da-un, was badly hurt when a heavy box fell on her. She lay on the floor, bleeding and unconscious. Sung Ho knelt beside her, trying to stop the bleeding with his hands. "Please, don't die," he whispered. "Your family needs you." Krikstal stopped in the doorway. The gratitude echoes were so strong, now that they made his head hurt. He saw images of humans helping each other, saving strangers, sharing their last food with enemies. It was impossible to understand, but somehow it felt more real than anything he had ever known. Without thinking, Krikstal pulled out his emergency medical kit and threw it to Sung Ho. "Fix her," he growled. His own warriors stared at him in shock. Threnody never helped their enemies. "Commander?" Vorth asked. "We take half the medicine," Krikstal said suddenly. "Leave the rest." "But Commander, the rules say we take everything." Krikstal's red eyes blazed. "I make the rules!" But even as he shouted, he didn't understand why he was doing this. The quantum echoes were changing something deep inside his warrior heart. After the pirates left, Sung Ho used their medical supplies to save Da-Yun's life. The remaining medicine was enough to help most of the sick people on Kepler Station, though not all of them. But something bigger had happened. The gratitude echoes had found their first crack in the galaxy's wall of cruelty. Far away, on the planet Nexus Prime, the hive-minded Nexari were having their own strange experience. The Nexari shared one big mind among millions of bodies. They, never thought as individuals, only as part of the group. But when human trader Yu Jin visited their world to sell farming equipment, the gratitude echoes came with her. As she worked with the Nexari buyers, her kindness and patience began to affect them in ways they had never felt before. Yu Jin noticed that the Nexari worker she was talking to seemed different from the others. He asked questions that seemed to come from personal curiosity, not just hive commands. "Why do you travel so far from your homeworld?" the Nexari asked. His name was Unit 47329, but somehow he felt like more than just a unit. "I like meeting new people," Yu Jin smiled. "Every species has something interesting to teach us." The gratitude echoes carried her genuine interest in other cultures. For the first time in his life, Unit 47329 felt what it was like to be curious as an individual, not just as part of the hive. The feeling was scary, but also wonderful. Other Nexari units began to feel it too. They started having their own thoughts, their own questions. The hive mind was still there, but now it was made of millions of individuals choosing to work together instead of one mind controlling millions of bodies. In the proud Valeth Empire, the echoes caused different changes. The Valeth believed they were the greatest species in the galaxy. They thought all other races were inferior and not worth their time. Admiral Zeftar was leading a fleet through an asteroid field when their navigation system failed. The ships were about to crash into the rocks and everyone would die. The Admiral was too proud to ask for help, even when he saw a human mining ship nearby. But engineer Dong Wu on the mining vessel Heavy Lifter saw what was happening. He didn't wait for permission or payment. He immediately sent navigation data to the Valeth ships and guided them safely through the asteroids. "Why did you help us?" Admiral Zeftar asked over the radio, confused. "Because you needed help," Dongwu said simply. "That's enough reason." The gratitude echoes carried those words across the Valeth fleet. Proud warriors who had never thanked anyone for anything felt a strange new emotion: humility, gratitude, the understanding that sometimes being strong meant accepting help from others. All across the galaxy, the network of gratitude echoes was awakening sleeping hearts. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years began to question their hatred. Isolated races started to wonder if they were missing something by staying alone. The quantum patterns were like seeds planted in fertile soil. Every act of human kindness made them grow stronger. Every moment of compassion sent new echoes racing across the stars at the speed of light. And in the deep darkness between galaxies, ancient beings who had been watching the universe for millions of years began to take notice. Something unprecedented was happening, something that had never been seen before in all their long years of observation. Hope was spreading like a living thing, carried by invisible quantum waves from a small blue planet where beings called humans had learned that helping others was more important than helping themselves. The galaxy was beginning to remember something it had forgotten long ago, something that would change everything. Dr. Mi Young had always loved studying alien cultures, but lately her work had become very strange. She sat in her laboratory on Luna Base, looking at reports from across the galaxy that made no sense. "This can't be right," she said to her computer screen. The data showed that wherever humans went, conflicts between alien species decreased by 70%. Trade agreements increased. Wars ended for no clear reason. Her assistant, Young Woo, brought her more files. Here are the latest reports from the Outer Rim. 3 more species have asked to join the Peaceful Commerce Alliance this month. Mi Young shook her head. Young Woo, 6 months ago, the Draknari and the Vorthak had been fighting for 50 years. Now they're working together to build hospitals. What changed? Maybe they got tired of fighting, Young Woo suggested. Entire civilizations don't just get tired of fighting, Mi Young said. Something is causing this. Something we don't understand. She pulled up a galactic map on her big screen. Everywhere humans had traveled, the changes followed. It was like a wave of peace spreading from Earth in all directions. Look at this pattern, she pointed to the map. It's almost like human presence creates some kind of field that makes other species more cooperative. What Mi Young didn't know was that her research was being watched from very far away. At the center of the galaxy, where massive black holes twisted space and time, ancient beings called the architects were studying the same patterns. The architects had given up physical bodies millions of years ago. They existed as pure energy, watching the galaxy develop like gardeners watching their plants grow. In all their long existence, they had never seen anything like what was happening now. "This is unprecedented," one architect said to another, their thoughts flowing like light between stars. "The quantum resonance patterns are changing the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. The species called humans," another architect replied. "They are doing something we have never observed. Their emotional states are creating permanent changes in space-time itself." The architects had watched thousands of species rise and fall. Most followed the same pattern. They developed technology, fought wars, conquered what they could, and eventually destroyed themselves or stagnated into irrelevance. But humans were different. The more advanced they became, the more they seemed to care about others. Instead of using their technology to dominate, they used it to help. This was so unusual that it had created something new in the universe. On Earth, diplomat Jin Ho was preparing for the most important meeting of his career. Representatives from 47 alien species were coming to Earth for the first Galactic Cooperation Summit. No one had ever tried to get so many different races to work together before. "Are you nervous?" asked his wife, Su Jin, as she helped him practice his speech. "Terrified," Jin Ho admitted. "These species have been fighting each other for thousands of years. How do we convince them to cooperate?" "The same way you convinced me to marry you," Su Jin smiled. "Be yourself. Be honest. Ask how you can help." The summit was held in the Great Assembly Hall in New Seoul. As Jin Ho looked out at the delegates, he saw creatures he had only read about in books. The fierce Threnody sat next to the elegant Kalani. The collective Nexari minds communicated, silently while the proud Valeth nobles held their heads high. Every species expected the humans to make demands, to ask for territory or resources or political advantage. That's how these meetings usually worked. Instead, Jin Ho stood up and said, "Thank you all for coming. We invited you here because we want to know how we can help make the galaxy a better place for everyone." The alien delegates looked confused. Ambassador Velcris of the Centauri Federation spoke first. "You want to help us? What do you gain from this? A galaxy where everyone is happy and safe, Jinho replied. When other people do well, we all do well. The gratitude echoes in the room grew stronger with every word. The quantum patterns carried Jinho's sincere desire to help, and they touched every mind present. For the first time, species that had been enemies began to really listen to each other. Commander Crixtall, who had been changed by his encounter with Captain Sung Ho, stood up. My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We thought strength meant taking what we wanted. But these humans showed us a different kind of strength, the strength to give instead of take. A Nexari representative, who now thought as an individual thanks to Trader Yu Jin, added, Our hive mind was efficient, but lonely. Humans taught us that working together is better when everyone chooses to participate. Admiral Zeftar of the Phi Valeth Empire, humbled by engineer Dongwu's selfless help, said, We believed we were superior to all other races. Humans showed us that real superiority comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. As the meeting continued, something amazing happened. The alien species didn't just agree to cooperate with humans. They began cooperating with each other. Ancient enemies shook hands. Old grudges were forgotten. New friendships formed. By the end of the summit, they had created the Galactic Helping Alliance. Every member species promised to share their knowledge and resources to help solve problems anywhere in the galaxy. If someone was hungry, everyone would send food. If someone was sick, everyone would send medicine. But the most important part was the question that ended every meeting. Jinho had suggested it, and now it became the motto of the Alliance. How can we help? Those 4 simple words carried by the gratitude echoes began to spread across the galaxy faster than any spaceship could travel. Species that had never heard of the Alliance started asking the same question when they met other races. The architects watched all of this with growing amazement. In their millions of years of observation, they had never seen anything like it. A single species had somehow convinced the entire galaxy to work together, not through force or trickery, but through simple kindness. We must meet these humans, the architects decided. We must understand how they have done the impossible. As the delegates left Earth to return to their homeworlds, each carried with them something more valuable than any treaty or trade agreement. They carried hope. Hope that the galaxy could be better. Hope that different species could work together. Hope that kindness was stronger than cruelty, and in every corner of the galaxy, the gratitude echoes continued to grow stronger, touching hearts and minds that had been closed to hope for millions of years. The network was complete now, spanning from the smallest asteroid mining station to the greatest capital worlds. The galaxy was ready for the next phase of humanity's gift to the universe. Ambassador Hyojin had seen many strange things in her years of diplomatic service, but nothing had prepared her for this. She stood on the observation deck of the exploration ship New Horizon, watching space itself change around them. The stars were moving in patterns that didn't follow any known laws of physics. Streams of pure light flowed between galaxies like rivers of gold, and ahead of them, something impossible waited at the center of the Milky Way. Are you sure this is safe? Asked Dr. Chan Wu, the ship's chief scientist. His instruments were showing readings that made no sense. The energy levels here could destroy our ship. The message said we would be protected, Hyojin replied, though she wasn't entirely sure herself. 3 days ago, every human communication device in the galaxy had received the same signal at exactly the same time. It was an invitation to meet beings called the Architects at the galactic core. As they approached the center of the galaxy, their ship began to glow with soft golden light. The dangerous radiation that should have killed them passed through their hull like it wasn't. There, something was keeping them safe. Look at that! Chan Wu whispered, pointing ahead. Before them stretched a structure that was bigger than solar systems. It looked like a vast crystal city floating in space, made of pure energy that shifted and flowed like living light. Buildings, the size of planets, connected to each other with bridges of starfire. "Welcome, children of Earth," a voice spoke directly into their minds. It was gentle but so vast that it seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We are the architects. We have been waiting to meet you." The ship docked at what looked like a landing platform made of solidified rainbow. As Hye-jin and Chan-woo walked down the ramp, they saw beings of impossible beauty waiting for them. The architects appeared as tall figures made of shifting light and energy. They had no solid form, but somehow they seemed more real than anything else in the universe. When they moved, space itself rippled around them like water. "You are not what we expected," Hye-jin said honestly. "Your message said you wanted to meet humanity. We thought you might be like us." "We were like you once," the nearest architect replied. "Millions of years ago, we had physical bodies and lived on worlds like yours. But we evolved beyond the need for flesh and bone. We became something greater." Chan-woo's scientific mind was racing. "You've been watching the galaxy all this time?" "Yes. We have observed thousands of species across millions of years. We have seen civilizations rise to greatness and fall to ruin. We have watched the same patterns repeat endlessly." Another architect moved closer, and Hye-jin felt warmth like standing in sunlight. "But you humans have done something we have never seen before. You have changed the fundamental nature of galactic civilization." "We don't understand," Hye-jin said. "We're just trying to help people." "That is exactly what makes you special," the first architect explained. "Most species develop technology to serve themselves. They build weapons to conquer enemies, ships to claim territory, computers to gain advantage over others. But you build technology to serve others." The architects led them through the crystal city, showing them wonders beyond imagination. They walked through rooms where they could see the history of the entire galaxy playing out like a movie. They watched the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of a million civilizations. "Here," one architect said, stopping at a wall that showed swirling patterns of light. "This is what you have done to the galaxy." The display showed the Milky Way from above, but instead of just stars and planets, it showed something else. Streams of golden energy connected every star system where humans had traveled. But more than that, the energy was spreading to systems where humans had never been. "The Kalani survivors helped us create this network," Chan-woo realized. "Their quantum abilities turned human kindness into a physical force. Yes. Your emotional resonance patterns have created permanent changes in the structure of space-time itself. Every act of kindness creates quantum echoes that strengthen the bonds between all living beings." Hye-jin stared at the display in wonder. "You mean when someone helps a stranger, it really does make the whole galaxy better?" "Literally, yes. Your species has weaponized compassion. You have turned empathy into a fundamental force of nature, like gravity or magnetism." The architects showed them more. They saw how the gratitude echoes had reached distant galaxies, carrying the message that kindness was possible. Alien civilizations billions of light years away were beginning to change, inspired by quantum patterns that had traveled from a small blue planet. "This has never happened before," an architect said. "In all our observations across multiple galaxies and millions of years, no species has ever created a permanent positive change in the universe itself. That's why we asked you here," another added. "We want to offer you transcendence. Join us, become beings of pure energy, and help us guide the universe toward greater harmony." Hye-jin and Chan-woo looked at each other. The offer was incredible. To become immortal beings of cosmic power, to help shape the development of entire galaxies. "Can we think about it?" Hye-jin asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." They were given a room made of crystallized starlight, where they could rest and consider the offer. As they talked, They thought about all the people they knew back home. What would Farmer Bo Young say about this? Chan Wu wondered. She's spent her whole life growing food to feed people. Would she want to give up her garden to become a cosmic gardener? What about Teacher Subin? Hyejin added. She loves working with children, seeing them learn and grow. Would she want to guide civilizations instead of helping individual kids? They talked through the night, thinking about everyone they knew. The shopkeeper who always gave free food to hungry people. The doctor who worked in poor neighborhoods without pay. The engineer who designed water purifiers for planets that had none. In the morning, they had their answer. We're honored by your offer, Hyejin told the architects, but we have to say no. The architects were puzzled. You would refuse transcendence? You would choose to remain mortal when you could become eternal? Yes, Chan Wu said, because the people down there need us. The work isn't finished yet. There are still people who need help, still problems to solve, still hands to hold and hearts to heal. But you could help on a cosmic scale, an architect protested. You could guide the development of entire galaxies. Maybe someday, Hyejin smiled. But right now, we'd rather stay down there in the mess and the noise and the beautiful chaos of mortal life. That's where we can do the most good. For the first time in millions of years, the architects felt something they had almost forgotten. Humility. These small, short-lived beings had just taught them something profound about what it meant to truly serve others. You would choose service over power, one architect said slowly. Helping individuals over cosmic influence. Every individual matters, Hyejin said. Every person we can help. Every smile we can create, every problem we can solve. That's not small work. That's the most important work in the universe. As the New Horizon prepared to leave, the architects gave them one final gift. A way to strengthen the Gratitude Echo Network even more, to help human kindness reach farther and touch more hearts across the cosmos. We understand now why you have succeeded where others failed, the lead architect said. You do not seek to transcend your nature. You perfect it by choosing to serve others, again and again, one person at a time. As they flew back toward human space, Hyejin and Chan Wu looked out at the stars with new understanding. They were part of something incredible, something that was changing the universe itself. And the best part was, it was just the beginning. 50 years had passed since the first contact with the Kalani, and Captain Hyunwoo was now an old man. His hair was white, and his hands shook a little, but his eyes still sparkled with kindness. He sat in the passenger section of the transport. Shipbright future, watching the stars through the window. Are you comfortable, sir? Asked the young captain, Seo Jun. She was only 25, but she flew the ship with skill and confidence. Do you need anything? Just enjoying the view, Hyunwoo smiled. I never get tired of seeing space. It's so beautiful and peaceful now. Seo Jun looked out at the space, around them. Where once there had been military patrols and border checkpoints, now there were research stations where different species worked together. Trading posts had become community centers where beings from across the galaxy gathered to share knowledge and friendship. It's hard to believe it was different before, Seo Jun said. My grandmother told me stories about when species used to fight each other, but it seems impossible now. It wasn't so long ago, Hyunwoo said gently. Change happened faster than anyone expected. Through the window, they could see one of the New Harmony stations. These were huge structures where refugees from across the galaxy could find safety and help. Threnody warriors who once raided ships now helped rescue people from disasters. Nexari hive minds worked with Valeth engineers to build better homes for everyone. Look at that, Seo Jun pointed to a convoy of ships flying nearby. The Galactic Helping Fleet. They're probably heading to assist with the food shortage in the Cygnus system. Hyunwoo watched the ships pass. The fleet was made up of volunteers from hundreds of different species, all working together to help people they would never meet. It was the largest organization in galactic history, and it had no armies, no weapons, no governments controlling it, just beings who wanted to help. The old captain thought about Veltara and the other Kalani survivors. They were still alive, their crystal bodies aging much more slowly than human flesh. They had told him the truth about their gift only last year, on the 50th anniversary of their rescue. "You made us into something we never planned to be," Veltara had said, her voice still like music after all these years. "You turned our gratitude into a force that changed everything." She had explained how their quantum abilities had evolved over the decades. What started as simple gratitude echoes had become something much more powerful. They called it the Eternal Echo Network. Now, every act of kindness, no matter how small, created permanent ripples in the fabric of space itself. When a child on Earth shared her lunch with a classmate, the quantum waves reached the Andromeda galaxy. When an elderly man on Mars helped a stranger fix his broken vehicle, peaceful feelings spread across entire star clusters. "Captain Hyun-woo," Seo-jun said, interrupting his thoughts. "We're getting a signal from the refugee convoy ahead. They're asking if we have medical supplies to spare." "Of course we do," Hyun-woo said immediately. "Tell them we'll transfer whatever they need." As Seo-jun sent the message, something wonderful happened that they couldn't see. The quantum echoes of their willingness to help rippled outward at the speed of light. On a planet 1,000 light-years away, a bitter old alien who had hated everyone for centuries suddenly felt a strange urge to forgive his neighbor. In another galaxy, a young being who had been planning to hurt others instead decided to help them. The Eternal Echo Network had grown beyond anything the Kalani had imagined. It now connected not just the Milky Way, but other galaxies as well. Kindness had become a fundamental force of the universe, like gravity or the strong nuclear force. As their ship approached Kepler Station, Hyun-woo saw something that made his heart swell with pride. The station that had once been just a small mining outpost was now a thriving city in space. Beings from dozens of species lived and worked together in harmony. In the docking bay, they were met by Krixtal, the former Threnody pirate commander. He was now the head of Kepler Station's emergency response team, using his warrior skills to rescue people instead of robbing them. "Captain Hyun-woo!" Krixtal's voice boomed with joy. "Welcome back to Kepler Station. How was your journey?" "Peaceful and beautiful. Thanks to people like you," Hyun-woo replied. As they walked through the station, Krixtal showed off the improvements. Medical centers run by former Nexari units who had learned to think as individuals. Gardens tended by Valeth, nobles who had discovered the joy of growing things instead of conquering them. Schools where children of all species learned together. "None of this would exist without what you taught us," Krixtal said. "That simple act of kindness 50 years ago changed everything." "It wasn't just me," Hyun-woo protested. "It was all of us. Every human who chose to help instead of hurt. Every alien who decided to trust instead of fear." They stopped at a memorial wall that showed the faces of beings from across the galaxy who had died helping others. Human doctors who had given their lives fighting diseases on alien worlds. Threnody warriors who had sacrificed themselves to save refugee ships. Kalani artists who had used their last energy to create beautiful things that brought joy to millions. "The network grows stronger every day," Krixtal said softly. "Each name on this wall represents millions of lives saved by their sacrifice." That evening, Hyun-woo sat in the station's observation lounge, surrounded by young people from different species who wanted to hear his stories. He told them about the early days, when aliens and humans barely trusted each other, about the first halting attempts at cooperation, about the gradual realization that they were all part of something bigger. "But how did you know it would work?" asked a young Valeth named Zara Lin. "How did you know that being kind to the Kalani would change the whole galaxy?" "We didn't know," Hyun-woo admitted. "We just knew it was the right thing to do. We helped because they needed help. That's all." But what if they had been dangerous? Asked an Exari individual called Tau Prime. What if helping them had put humanity at risk? Hyunwoo thought about that for a moment. Then we would have faced that danger knowing we did what our hearts told us was right. The risk of being cruel is always greater than the risk of being kind. A young human girl named Yejin, who wrote poetry that was now read across a dozen galaxies, said, "My teacher told me that the eternal echo network means every good thing we do lives forever. Is that really true?" "Yes," Hyunwoo said with certainty. "Every time you help someone, every time you choose love over fear, every time you see someone suffering and decide to care instead of looking away, you make the universe a little bit better forever." As the young beings headed back to their homes and ships and stations, Hyunwoo remained in the observation lounge looking out at the stars. The space between them wasn't empty anymore. It hummed with the quantum frequency of kindness, carrying messages of hope and love to corners of the universe that hadn't felt such things in billions of years. Veltara appeared beside him, her crystal form glowing softly in the starlight. Even after 50 years, she still marveled at what had grown from that simple rescue. "Your species never stops surprising us," she said. "Even now, when you could rest on your accomplishments, you keep finding new ways to help others." "It's not about accomplishments," Hyunwoo replied. "It's about seeing someone who needs help and not being able to walk away. It's about knowing that we're all connected, all part of the same cosmic family. The eternal echo network has reached the edge of observable space," Veltara told him. "Other universes are beginning to detect our signals. What your people call kindness is spreading beyond our reality into places we never imagined existed," Hyunwoo smiled. "Good. The more beings who know that help is possible, the better." As the old captain prepared for sleep, he thought about young Captain Seo Jun and all the others like her. They had grown up in a galaxy where helping strangers was normal, where different species worked together as friends, where the first response to any problem was, "How can we help?" They didn't know how special that was because to them, it was just how the universe worked. And maybe that was the greatest gift humanity had given the cosmos. Not just the knowledge that kindness was possible, but the reality of a universe where kindness was the natural way of things. In the quantum background radiation of space itself, the eternal echo network hummed with the voices of trillions of beings, all asking the same question that had started it all. How can we help? And across the infinite expanse of existence, that question continued to spread, carrying with it the most important truth in any universe, that caring for others is not just good, it is the very foundation of all that is beautiful and worth, preserving in existence itself. The gratitude of humanity truly wasn't small. It had become eternal, echoing across space and time, a permanent part of the cosmic story that would outlast the stars themselves.